Niggas out here in the street dying. Niggas in the cuts. Niggas in the projects. They out here really suffering. They out here really dying on an advanced, reincarnation level without playing the race card, right? Just to get that refill, right? To see what's really fair, right? When the opportunity for some type of real liberation, when some type of higher liberation is lost in the physical plane for who knows how long, 12,000 years or whatever. Higher liberation was lost. A dark yuga experiment where mass corruption was held to compensate what? More or less 12,000, maybe even 120,000 years. Like we don't know how long the Kali Yuga really was, right? It's something like it's a different type of malleability, a different context of malleability of where it could prolong a different type of whole different higher war is grasping where the whole fucking service to self and service to all, that's kind of outdated too, right? Because there has to be a balance and there has to be a extreme exaggeration of that as well, right? So when people bring up any of these topics, I'm literally the only one that breaks it down critically. Literally 99% of your teachers are trash on this planet. Literally 99% of you wokies just inherit original God fucking intelligence and energy, regardless of the activation, because that's just part of the program, right? We're just like the humans are respectively something like like there's something like robots, right? Not good, not bad, but like that is what it is, right? So like when niggas out here dying in the projects and the cuts like that, it's an advanced karma that we have to really accept, right? We have to accept a higher truth and how that higher truth is balancing and stabilizing different types of shit in the surface level matrix field. So, one point I would like to drive home would be like this liberation, this higher liberation thing. It's a small percentage. It's very small. That the liberation, and within that, as that opportunity of real liberation from a different pure energy realm comes and goes, then it could only kind of reflect the opportunity for a physical liberation to happen, right? So the physical liberation is kind of there, regardless of like, you know, tech, politics, business, news, and economies, right? That liberation, energy, and news and information, ironically, it's the juice for that shit, and it wavers in between that shit because just because you're like scaling some type of like big mega company, you're still thriving and fiending for some type of freedom of time and liberation of time on a more pure level. What do I mean by more pure level? In the paint, you could say you have a certain type of liberation when your satanic contract of distortion says otherwise. And all you could do is parade and regurgitate liberation energies and informations that's making this shit a fucking thing, right? It's making it shit roll, right? So that liberation energy and information, that's the most valuable commodity ever because that's the thing that gives you the energy opportunity to have a foundation to be liberated and free, to have some type of quote unquote freedom, mind the etymology, right? Because we don't necessarily even know what the words are doing to us on a surface level. All the words that we're saying, they don't necessarily even mean what they mean, right? We just gave them the human surface level meaning because that's how we're programmed to look at them, right? So it's how we're looking at them is also a different way, right? So aside from the extreme lefts and right and the extreme good and bads, God will still remain through it all, right? Aside from everybody's hype jargon, beyond all the hype and beyond all the grabsy type of fucking, data cache replication of non-genuine action, right? They're using the rhetoric not truthfully, right? So it's like, I don't know how the original galactic government looks at that shit. Energetically, it creates a non-truth, right? You're using something not for real. Now you're fabricating it. Now you're making a different false image illusion of it. Now you're in the illusion of it. So on a neutral level, that is the original galactic government. So what am I really trying to say here? It's like niggas out here dying in the projects, in the cuts, wondering why. Saying, God, why is this happening? God, why is this happening? Because there's a universal karma factor in seeing how a different quote unquote original galactic government of energetic intelligence sees how you're hypocritical with the liberation knowledge in pure action. What does that mean in pure action? It's saying that when the liberation opportunity of energy and information is here, the liberation energy and information for real of it, and just seeing the fucking mainstream industries, catch game however the fuck they do and try to have that distorted satanic mentality where I don't give a fuck if you fucking made it. I'm gonna use it for my benefit and I don't give a fuck about you. Like I know that petty ass baby kindergarten say like distorted satanic mentality of just like take. I don't give a fuck about your contribution even though it's not possible without you, and I don't give a fuck about you even though my pleasure is based on what you're contributing. Like that's like retarded hypocrisy type of shit. Like you don't think I fucking realize that in the field of the humans, and it's a subject. It's a psychological program subject to inhabitants, right? So what am I saying when niggas out here dying in the cuts and the projects on some real 2025 spiel? Like niggas be out here dying in the cuts and the projects because maybe in the past life in the universal advanced karma of things, they're shunning the real liberation opportunity. When the liberation opportunity, the contribution action plan agenda of a balanced agenda of energy, they're trying to shortchange and get they're competing with that in a distorted way, and they're trying to get a one up on that. They're competing on that. Like people are competing in a distorted way. So what's the difference between competition in a distorted way and a non-distorted way? And I covered this in the past as well, right? So the competition in a distorted way is seeing, as opposed to competition in a non-distorted way, is like a competition in a fair way is like we're showing up to the table knowing the rules in a fair, transparent, lit up field, and there's rules to the game, and there's quote unquote, per the metaphor, there's referees in the game, right? So the competition in a distorted field doesn't have the referees, right? So that's the thing. It's like people in the surface level tech community, in the education community, and pretty much most majority of fields, there's a competition in the distorted aspect. What does that mean? The competition in the distorted aspect, they're cheating in different niche ways, particular ways you wouldn't know. They're rigging the game in particular ways. There's no referees in particular ways. And if there's no referees, then that makes some type of concept and notion of a court system and justice system. It makes it in one niche way. It could nullify it or voidify it, right? Because you're saying it's there to do something when it's not doing that. But I'm not saying it's not doing that or it's not doing that. It's a niche way. It's like it's a different esoteric, archonic way where somehow it could be doing both, right? Beyond my human's thing of it, right? Because I'm just like the human could only balance what God could the human could only balance what it could receive from God and what it could what it could reject from God. What does that mean? What it rejects from God? It's not necessarily open to pure balance spiritual information because it's on its own stubborn path, not good, not bad, like just within the standard psychology of it, right? So within the standard psychology, when I say niggas dying out here in the projects and the cuts, why am I saying it like that? It's because how do you think the universe would justify that? How would the universe justify, people suffering in mass amounts of quality on the earth, and a bunch of people are just parading that and applauding that false rhetoric like we could fix it when they really ain't fixing shit. 95% of your spiritual coaches, they're really not fixing shit. They're under a satanic contract of distortion, and they're just reaping game based on the contract they have, and they really their word really isn't shit. Like and obviously like it can, and ironically as fuck, that can be verified, so that's even more funny, right? So what am I really saying? Like, why is it that like niggas out here, and it's not just black people, it's all the people, right? There's poor white people, right? It's like the white people card, it's just a card. It's just a psychological card. It's not a bigger picture dynamic, right? It's just a temporary card to identify, not good, not bad, to identify yourself, to classify yourself as this is what you are, and we're gonna ignore that classification of all races have different classes of rich, middle class, and poor, and there's more, and there's other variables behind the race card. So it's not just black or white people that are rich or poor, right? I'm just saying generally any race could be poor somehow, or any race could be rich somehow, right, Diddy? So within saying that shit, it's like how do you think the universe would justify this shit? Like the people that are sold out in the contracts right now, they're parading a certain rhetoric that can be verified, that they want to help the world, right? They want to help the world, and they want to provide new solutions, when behind the scenes and behind, their distorted satanic max. And I'm careful with putting distortion before the satanic, because not all satanic energies are extremely imbalanced. It could be like there's a possibility for the Satan energy to be balanced, right? So that's a different graceful insight. That's a different graceful insight that I'm putting out there, right? So just to clear that shit up, right? Because I know how people could like, like, well, I like, well, Umbriel, like, I'm this, and you're talking down on my stuff. No, I'm saying anything could be subject to be that, and the majority of that energy is using that energy to be that, and to fucking do that esoteric statistic of it, right? So what am I trying to say when I'm saying like niggas out here dying in the cuts, niggas out here dying in the projects? What does that mean? How does the universal karma justify niggas out here dying in the cuts, niggas out here dying in the projects? What, like, how is the universe justifying particularly that shit? Well, it's saying that people are selling out at such an extreme level, that they're selling out at such an extreme level that they'll just hoard a certain energy, and they'll make that energy kind of void and useless, and they'll attempt to suffocate an energy, and as they attempt to suffocate that energy, they're suffocating a certain type of potential, of a different type of fixed solution, right? So I'm going to conclude this video real quick. So I'm not hating on like one. I'm not, and let me clear this up. I'm not hating on just one thing, right? Because anything, it's a subject to subject thing. So what does subject to subject mean? One thing could carry a certain type of energy, right? Like a molecule. A molecule could carry some type of quote unquote particle, right? What, be that dirt, or be that some type of like, be that dirt, or some type of just radical energy, right? Like some type of quote unquote, you know, a radical energy being just some type of spirit that could emanate something, right? So a molecule could carry different things. So I'm clearing up the metaphor with that. So to conclude this video and to clear up the confusion is saying, I'm asking like why niggas are suffering in the field generally. So the like what you know before you're gonna say like what are you talking about? So I'm not so like for me it's there's a lot of grace in here too with the intelligence, right? There's grace within the intelligence. So I'm just saying like it just seems like there's a so for me just to like really say it to answer the intuitive question, answering the intuitive question of like why are niggas suffering in the projects generally is saying maybe in the past life they were rich. They were the rich people in the last life and they turned and they turned a cold shoulder on their duty. They turned a cold shoulder on their duty and what they said they were going to do and what they said they were about for some type of general liberation. They ghastly went against it and they didn't care as they went against it. So I'm trying to figure out why niggas be suffering in the projects for real. So the the logic would say, I think in the past life they were the rich people and they used the rhetoric wrong and they sold out their culture and they weren't working with God's balanced energy of liberation. Period. Thank you. I'm going to conclude this video right now. Grace, grace, grace.